It's time to put your health in your own hands. Get ready to learn from today's top health and wellness innovators and thought leaders on Optimal Health Radio. Now, here's your host.
Hi, everyone. This is Tammy Patzer, and I'm really excited to introduce today's guest, PATRICIA ROWE. PATRICIA is an evidence-based energy healer, and she is a pioneer in the field of life force healing that can optimize a person's potential and bring mental calmness. Life force is the solution that goes beyond the symptoms to the root cause and is most significant factor for a quality life and happiness that exists. PATRICIA transmits this life force energy to people, animals, nutraceuticals, agriculture, and products. So, PATRICIA, today I would really love to take a deep dive into what it means to optimize your potential. Welcome.
Hi, Tammy. It's so great to be here with you again. And I'm excited to talk about this subject. Optimizing potential, it really goes to that age-old question that everybody has of who am I? Who am I? Why am I here? We're made up of a body, brain, and spirit. And we're made as an expression of the divine creator. We often live our lives in the realm of the brain and body. We get stuck in our drama and all the stuff that's going on and the mental chatter going on in our head, the going back and forth. But what about the spirit? What about who we really are, the essence of who we are that stays with us even when we pass this life? Because energy is neither created or destroyed, so that's going to stay with us. That's the essence of who we are. So optimize your potential is about connecting more to your soul and bringing that potential of who you can be into your entire being and bringing your mental, emotional body, your brain and your body in alignment with your spirit. And when you do that, you can become aware of gifts and talents that you never knew existed. You become attracted to things that are on the right path for you, because each person is like a snowflake. We're each unique, and we can become aware of what is right for us and also become more aware of what is illusion or delusion and not right for us.
That's really interesting, because I think so many people were, seeking our life purpose, our life path. That seems to be one of the biggest questions that people at some point in their life, they ask, like, why am I here? What is my purpose? And many people, I've heard the numbers are as high as 99% of human beings kind of are just floating along, and they never really do realize their human potential or their potential as the spiritual part of themselves. And I think about that because if you think about life force energy, the creator energy, and that connection, that's a pretty phenomenal connection when you think about it. So can you tell me more about the life path, how do we find what we're supposed to be doing? Is there a method or a way? Is it as simple as just connecting, or is there a little bit more thought? Because obviously human beings, we have brains for thinking, and we use them for a lot more than just our bodily functions of breathing and everything. So can you talk a little bit more about how this life force energy works to help us find that life purpose?
Right. So there's no real technique or formula. And there's a difference between what am I supposed to be doing and what is my life purpose. They're not necessarily the same thing. What job should I do and what is my life purpose? They're not necessarily the same thing. And really, the reason you were created or the purpose you were created, that's known by the Creator and possibly your soul. No one else knows it, so no one else can tell you what it is. And in some sense, we may look at it and say, well, my purpose is to grow and transform. And that could be the same for all of us. And then as we grow and transform, we'll transform into different things because we're each unique. Now, I have here some seeds. So here is I don't know if you can see it, but that's an apple seed. Okay? And then here is a pear seed. So if you can't see it, you can just imagine a pear seed and an apple seed. So they have potential. And they may not know what their potential is. They don't even really have to know. They just grow towards the light. They look towards the light. And that's what we do. We look towards the light. And when we receive these blessings, this life force energy that connects us to our higher soul, to the divine light, then we just start growing into who we are. And then it just becomes revealed. So it's a process. It's not like you can ask the question, oh, okay, what is my life purpose, and necessarily get specific answers. You should be doing this or that. Do you really think you were born to do a job? Really, we're expressions of the divine. So we get the chance, when the more that we connect with our higher souls and with the divine and with the Creator, to become what we can be. And there's a mystery to that, and there's a real beauty in the mystery to that. And the pear seed, it's not going to receive a blessing and then the next day have a pear. This is an odd-looking pear, but it came from a tree. It's a pear. And the apple seed is not the next day going to have an apple. It's a process. It grows through the soil and going towards the light, and then growing into a tree, and then eventually gets the fruit of the apple or the pear. And it also is it has its own potential, that the pear seed cannot become an apple tree. I cannot become a singer. I'm just not. That's not in my talent. So that's part of illusion and delusion. When you receive these blessings that connect you more, then you can pair with that something we call Chintan. And in Chintan, you go inside yourself and you do a life review. You start looking at, what are my gifts? What are my talents? What are the mistakes I've made in life? What seemed to take me nowhere? You start looking at all that. And that blessing of the life force energy, that connection, helps you see things in a different way, so that you can start to understand where you went off path and where you were on track. And then that can help you move forward in the future. And you can see where you went off track, and then you can make the resolution, okay, so I'm not going to make that mistake again. So this can be a very valuable thing, and it can help us see where we're in illusion. Like if I think that I want to go in one direction and I start looking at this, well, what's really happening when I look at this? What am I tired? Am I exhausted all the time? Because when you're in the right path, you usually have more energy. If you're in the flow with the creation, there's more joy, there's more confidence, there's more feeling of being in your power, there's more inspiration. And when you're off track, there's more confusion, there's There's inability to make a decision. There's all the mind chattering, the inability to sleep. So those kind of things can be telling you that you're off path. But you combine the blessings with the introspection that comes with the Chintan, where we really look at what we've done in our life, what we've done in even just that day, and see what we can learn from it, and listen to that inner connection that we receive when we get the blessing.
So Chintan is actually a Hindu word that means self-reflection and self-analysis. Am I correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I know sometimes you hear these different terminologies, and that comes from, again, the Hindu reflection. Isn't it wonderful how there are different languages that actually have a very precise definition that is way better than anything in English? I mean, Chintan, nice and short. Self-analysis is like really long. But I like your analogy and your examples of your pear seed and your apple seed, because obviously you look at the seeds and they look very similar, but one is destined to become an apple and one is destined to become a pear. And all of us are, created for something. And I think you're right. Often people don't see themselves in the light of their spiritual self. They see themselves in that job. Like, for example, I was a newspaper editor for many years. And so people would say, well, what do you do? And it would be like, oh, well, I'm a newspaper editor. And then you tell people what you do, not about who you are.
Right. And you may have a purpose of developing courage and truth. And or some other qualities, those qualities can be developed being a journalist, because you're really challenged on making sure that you get the truth and that you report the truth, and you may be challenged on courage, and the courage to print what you want to print that may not be popular, or the courage to go somewhere to find out what's going on in the world, that may take a lot of courage to go there. But then you could take another job and you could develop those exact same qualities in another job. And we get stuck thinking that our life purpose has to do with what job we're in. But life purpose is, God has more to do with who we are, because to think that we're born to do a job.
Yeah, I think you're right, because it's interesting, because we're all born with gifts and talents and abilities, but they're useful to develop into that other side, that spiritual side of us. And again, for many of us, that part of us gets ignored because we're so busy in the life that we're living. And like you said, in that delusion or illusion of what we think. And it's interesting that you brought that up about the different jobs, that they do help you learn different valuable lessons, like truth. And I do value truth. And believe me, when you're a journalist, if you are a real journalist, you're always seeking this side of the story, this side of the story, this side, so that you can have the biggest truth there is, so that other people can make a decision based on the story that you're giving them. And like you said about courage, I had different people who would come into my office wanting me to do like nasty exposés on their opponents, for example, in elections. And I would have to look at what they were making claims about and say, that's not news. That is nobody's business but theirs, like some different issues that people would come up, and I'd have to say, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to write about this person because you're wanting to discredit them. And you're right, you do have to grow in courage and in different things. So that's interesting. So with what you do with people, with the energy work and everything, can you tell me a little bit more about when you work with someone, what does that look like? Or do they need to do anything special prep for that?
Okay. So I really like to work with people on a membership basis, on an ongoing basis, because I'm really looking for helping facilitate someone's transformation and really making changes in themselves and therefore their lives. And that's not usually a one-time thing. Sometimes one blessing can actually change the whole direction for someone, but we're ongoing developing our potential of what we can be. So I like to have people sign up for membership programs, and what I do is then I send this life force energy to them while they're sleeping. So they don't need to be doing anything. They just go to bed. They don't need to open their heart or say a prayer or do anything. And then when I send that energy opens up their connection to their higher soul and the divine. And then that communication between their brain and their soul and the divine is increased. Everybody already has some connection, but this energy increases the connection. So you can be a beginner in this path and you can get benefit, and you can be very advanced on the path and you can get benefit, because wherever you are, it's just going to increase it. So it opens up that channel and where you get that communication, and happens while you're asleep. So your mental body doesn't have to get involved. You don't have to be worried about thinking about this or that. And that starts to bring the transformation. So often when people wake up, they often feel very refreshed, and through the day, something may happen, something may not. It can affect you days later. It can affect you. It affects on an ongoing basis, and often a very subtle way. Sometimes there's a dramatic shift, but oftentimes it's a very subtle way. Like when we grow physically, you don't notice that you grew. You can measure yourself on the wall, and then you measure yourself as a child, say a year later, and then, oh, I'm 2 inches taller. Well, it's kind of like that. You didn't notice you were growing. So it often works like that. You might not necessarily know it, but then after a while you look back and you're like, wow, I've really changed. I have totally different perception. Because when you grow and it raises your consciousness, your perceptions change. And then when your perceptions change, your resonance changes, which means whatever the resonance has to do with, like a tuning fork, whatever you're vibrating at, that's what's going to be near you. And so as you raise that, you raise your level of consciousness, more opportunities and things can come to you because you've raised it. And then even when the same thing is happening, you look at it differently. Like you may have a problem going on, but all of a sudden you look at it differently. That's raising the consciousness. And raising the consciousness is really, it's like the solution to all problems. Because get that sense of how to handle anything, you get more of a sense of what is right for you, and because you're at a higher level, better things will come for you that are more right for you. And actually the level of consciousness, there's an interesting aspect to that, because a lot of times people on the spiritual search, they go and they take these classes or they read books, even from masters or whatever, and they learn something and they try to copy it. But if you're at say level 1 and you're reading something at level 3, you can only understand it at level 1. So you don't understand it the same way. And then when you try to implement it, it doesn't work because you didn't really get it because you're not at that level. And that's one of the reasons that people get off track a lot of times when they're on a spiritual path, even if they're, reading books of somebody that they maybe is really spiritual, but they are not at the level to understand what is being taught. So as you raise your consciousness, you can understand at higher and higher levels and deeper and deeper levels. So also our understandings the more we receive these blessings, myself included, the deeper understandings we get and the more we grow. So
I was just going to say, I think that's a really simple, good way to describe the higher consciousness and the value of it. For me personally, I can't honestly say that I was ever like, I want to raise my consciousness. That wasn't how I ever thought, but I did know that I was seeking solutions for different problems I had, and I did seek resolution in a spiritual way. I tried to find a way to feel more connected to the Creator, even though I didn't have, like you said, the vocabulary or maybe even the awareness of what that meant, in terms of what would happen to me as I developed. I didn't really have any vocabulary or awareness of that. And as I'm being educated now, and that's one of the reasons why I love to do these interviews, because it's very helpful to listen to different people who are on various levels of consciousness and how they explain things, so that it helps me to understand. And I'm sure there's many listeners that are having a similar aha moment as I am about, that's what that means, or that's how you can grow. Because again, I never in my wildest dreams ever even thought about, I'm going to go raise my consciousness. That just wasn't me. And even when I think about it, as you can see me, I've got a smile on my face because I'm kind of just thinking about it at this, like, isn't that interesting? And I mean that in a real, sincere way, because I can't express the words about, so that's what part of that growth is. As you go through your problems and you start to see, you can have the same exact problem today that you had yesterday, but today you can see it in a much clearer way because of that growth. So I think that's a really good explanation on that. So Patricia, you work with people in different membership programs. How can they reach out to talk to you and to have a conversation?
Sure. Well, I guess the first thing I would say is go to my website, which is patricia-rowe.com. And then if you go to my website, you will see my phone number and you'll see my email. So feel free to email, contact me by email, phone. I'm open to talk to people, and also have besides the membership programs, I have what I call a personal consultation, which is someone can sign up for a one-time. It's more than one blessing, but it's a one-time thing where maybe they have something going on, and then they can call, and I spend an hour with you. And I can answer any questions about what I do, but you can also talk to me about what's going on in your life and that kind of thing. And then I send a blessing to the person right then while they're awake. This is a little different. I send a blessing to them, and they can actually say their own prayer while I'm increasing their connection. And then after that, the following couple nights, I send them 2 more blessings while they're sleeping. So that's another way. There's something going on. You're not ready for signing up for membership, but you want to experience this. That's a good way to get started. But again, if you go to the website, Patricia, PATRICIA -ROWE.com, and you can read about me. And also, if you look at the science experiments that show when I blessed vitamin D3, for example, and what it did was it made the vitamin D3 a better vitamin D3. It doesn't make the vitamin D3 a vitamin B or a vitamin C or a combination of all vitamins. It makes the vitamin D3 a better vitamin D3, and that's what this is about. Help facilitating you by connecting you to your own spirit, increasing your connection to your own spirit and the Creator, so that you can be more of who you can be, and really who you are.
Again, like you said, you can optimize your potential. So, Patricia, thank you so much. Everyone, remember, it's patricia-rowe.com, and go check out the science, because Patricia is scientifically validated, and her work has been published in some scientific peer-reviewed journals. And her website, patricia-rowe.com, has the science and testimonials and all kinds of really good information, so that you can find out more about her and the science at patricia-rowe.com. Thank you so much, Patricia.
Thank you, Tammy.
Everyone, this is Tammy Patzer. Go make it a beautiful day.
You've been listening to today's top health and wellness innovators and thought leaders on Optimal Health Radio. To get more solid health and wellness information, visit optimalhealthradio.com.